What's going on, guys? It's Justin here with Summit Racing, and we're in the Summit Racing studio working on this sweet 1966 Chevrolet Corvette. Now, you might recognize this Corvette from a couple previous videos. It belongs to our buddy Al, and it's affectionately known as Krusty. He bought this fresh barn find Corvette and then brought it back to a second life, putting it back on the road. Now, after you go through a car and do a bunch of stuff to it and a couple test drives, you do notice a couple things that you missed. And Al happened to notice that the headlights weren't actuating properly, nor were the windshield wipers working. So we got with our buddies over at Detroit Speed and got a couple of kits from them to get these working again. We're going to be installing the Detroit Speed headlight motor kit and the Detroit Speed windshield wiper kit with the Selecta Speed option. So let's jump into this project and get it done. So we're going to start off by doing the headlight motors. And the first step in that is to head up under here under the dash and find the headlight circuit breaker. Now, once you find the circuit breaker, you're going to go ahead and you're going to use something like a test light or a power probe to identify which side is constant power and which side goes to the headlight motors, leaving the constant 12-volt side hooked up. Now, I'll show you guys where this thing is so we can move on to the next step. So you're going to crawl under here and identify the headlight circuit breaker, and to figure out which side is 12-volt constant and which side is to the headlight relay, you're going to disconnect one of these wires and then test it with your power probe. So we went ahead and disconnected the bottom one, and then when we come back to our relay and hit it with our tester, we can see that it's 12 volt. Now this determines that the other wire is not constant power. So we're going to go ahead and push that one out of the way and then reinstall our circuit breaker back into its holder. So with this disconnected, we're going to go ahead and head up front and work on getting the headlight motors out. Another way to identify this is to come up here to the headlight switch, move it back and forth, and if you don't hear it clicking in the front, that means you disconnected the proper wire. So we're going to start by disconnecting the headlight motors. We're going to unplug the wires first. First, we're going to start by disconnecting this ground here. We install that bolt so we don't lose it. Then we're going to come over here and disconnect this clip. So we've got our ground disconnected off our motor, and we've noticed that once we dived into this car that somebody already had the motor bracket disconnected. So that's one less thing we have to do. Now we're having a little trouble getting the wiring harness unplugged, so I'm going to pull this clip off here, disconnect the motor, pull it out here, and I should be able to get it unplugged a little easier. Got the clip removed. So we went ahead and got our headlight motor out, and now we're going to get it unplugged. Now I couldn't get really a good grip on this thing to get it out, so I'm going to squeeze it extra hard, and just like that, it comes right out. So now that we've got all our old parts off, it's time to start to install some new ones. And the first thing we're going to install is this wiring harness from Detroit Speed. Now this replaces our old crusty outdated harness with a new one with modern plugs on the end for our motors. Now I've gone ahead and depinned the connector on the end and located a factory firewall hole that we can run our wiring harness through. So we took a factory grommet, drilled a hole in the center, and fed all our wires through. So now I'm going to feed the wiring harness inside the driver's compartment and get all this stuff hooked up. So now we're ready to start installing our headlight actuators, and we're going to put the driver's side in first. So go ahead and start to work this thing into place. So now we're going to install our cleaning clip on our shaft here. And this just slides into place. So now we're going to go ahead and plug in our headlight actuator. And you can't actually see the plug right now, but it's above the top of the motor, so you're just going to have to trust me that it's there. And for the driver's side one, we're going to use the orange and yellow wire. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the headlight switch, and to do that, there's a button on the bottom that you press, hold that in, and then you kind of jiggle this a little bit, and it'll release, and this pulls out. Then they make a special tool to fit in this nut and remove it. I don't currently have one, but you can take a big flat blade screwdriver a lot of the times and loosen it like this. So to get our wiring harness hooked up into the factory harness, we need to go ahead and de-pin a couple wires out of the factory headlight connector. So we're gonna look at our wiring diagram here. And if you look, each year uses a different color wire and a different pin. We're gonna go over here to the late 65 to 66. See what 2 wires we need to remove. I've went ahead and already pinned out this blue wire, and now I need to de-pin this black wire or brown wire. My mistake, I'm colorblind today. So I'm gonna head into the dash and get that brown wire disconnected. With the brown wire disconnected, we're gonna go ahead and use this jumper harness here to reconnect. And then this is what's gonna connect us into the factory harness. And kind of manipulate this around a little bit. I know it can be a lot. Brown wire into here, blue wire into here, and make sure you hear both of those click. So now that we got those wires de-pinned and the new ones installed, we need to do something with the old ones. And they provide you this plug to put them in that piggybacks them into the back of the new wires. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this installed. This is a nice little plug that'll go right into this plug on the harness. So we're gonna take our 2 wires, we unpin, look at the diagram that they provide. Let that one click, slide this one in as well, that one clicked, and plug this in. Now we're gonna go ahead and attach a ground wire to the factory dash bar using one of these bolts. So we have our new ground post installed here, and now we're gonna go ahead and connect our ground wire. Everything all snugged up, nice and tight, not going anywhere. And see, this here is our power wire, and we're gonna connect this to that circuit breaker that we disconnected in the beginning. Go ahead and get our headlight switch plugged in. Got that all secured. So we'll go ahead and tuck that thing back up under the dash. Grab our switch retaining bolt. Like I said before, I don't have the exact tool to take this out, but a big flat blade screwdriver will do it if you got it. That thing's nice and snug. It doesn't have to be over tight, guys, just enough to keep it in place. And just like I showed you guys earlier, we're gonna hold down that button on the bottom of the switch, and then slide our headlight control in. Verify that it turns and works like it should. And these switches are super common on a bunch of GM cars, so if yours is wore out, they're actually pretty cheap. AC Delco sells a replacement, so it's not a bad idea if yours has seen better days to replace it while you're doing this job. And those are available right through Summit Racing. So our wiring looks pretty good under here, so we're gonna go ahead and reinstall the kick panel we took out earlier looking for the mystery ground. So we got everything under here all secured and tucked up under the way. Now let's head back under the hood of the car, get all the wiring secured underneath there, and then get the hood back on it, and then this headlight job is done. So with our headlights finished up and working, we went ahead and threw the hood back on the car with the help of a couple friends. Now it's time to address the other issue this car has, and that's non-working windshield wipers. You want to make sure your windshield wipers always work, because the last thing you want to do is unfortunately get caught out in the rain when you're out cruising in your car and not have the ability to clean your windshield. That can end up really dangerous. So we're going to go ahead and put a windshield wiper kit in this thing from our friends over at Detroit Speed. They make a really cool Selecta Speed windshield wiper kit for this, and it retrofits modern windshield wiping technology into an old car like this. So let's go ahead, get the hood open and the battery disconnected, and start tearing some old parts off. So first we're going to start by removing the positive battery cable, and I already went ahead and loosened the nut. So get that off of there. Then followed by the air cleaner, the distributor cap itself, and then the coil bracket. Next we're going to go ahead and remove the windshield washer fluid lines and unplug the motor. Now with a couple of our plugs disconnected on the outside, we're going to go inside the car, get the glove box out of this thing so we can get to the back of it to get the motor removed so I can unplug the bottom plug. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 bolts that hold the wiper motor in. You guys can only see a couple of them because they're tucked up behind the dash, but trust me, they're there. So with our 4 bolts removed on the inside, we can go ahead and remove our factory wiper motor. And this kind of just wiggles out. So once you get the motor removed and everything cleaned up behind here, you're going to want to go to your factory plugs that you unplugged and remove the brown wire from this one with 3 wires. It's the center wire. So we're going to take a pick here, depress the tab on the connector. That wire should come out. So we're going to put a Packard connector on the end of this that's provided by Detroit Speed, because we're going to reuse this wire. Make sure that clicks on. Our Packard connector is all installed. Now with that done, we can go ahead and install our new wiper motor. So we've gone ahead and got our motor in place, and we've got the bolt started. Now I'm going to crawl under there and get these things all tightened. It's time to install our new switch and wiring harness for the Selecta Speed wipers. First thing we need to do is go ahead and remove the knob, and we do that by backing out this little set screw here and pulling the knob off. Now with that removed, we can go ahead and we're going to need to take a tool to remove the nut here. It's a lot like the headlight switch. So you can either use like a small set of needle nose pliers, or there's a couple companies that make an actual tool to remove this switch. So I'm going to go grab some pliers out of my toolbox and try to finagle this thing out of here. So we're just going to take our needle nose pliers, take them and push them in both sides of the nut hole, and just like that. Went ahead and got it loose. Now spin this nut loose, and then remove the headlight switch through the back. Just like that, our nut is removed, and we can go ahead and push the switch out the back and get it unplugged. So we're not going to reuse this switch. You can go ahead and set it to the side, and let's go grab our new switch and wiring harness and get that installed. You need to make sure that you put your clocking ring on before you install it. Now it's important to look at Detroit Speed's instructions when doing this, because through these generations of Vettes, each year is a little bit different in installation. So ours being a 66, we looked at the 66 installation instructions and we're following that. So let's go ahead and get our switch in. Now with that tight, we can go ahead and get our headlight switch reinstalled. So on our factory 66 knob, Detroit Speed provides a plug to put in the hole from the factory switch. There's also an O-ring on the bag, and you simply put it in the groove on this plug and then insert the plug from the back. So we got ours in. Let's get the knob on the switch. Verify that it turns. And our headlight switch is all installed. Now with this done, we can go ahead and start getting some of the wiring ran and the control box installed. So we went ahead and got our new firewall grommet installed with all our wires ran through it. Now we're gonna head back under the dash of the car, get the module installed, and get some other stuff plugged in. So we've gone ahead and got our wiring harness ran inside the car. Now we need to go ahead and connect our control module. Now, since we've already installed a windshield wiper kit from Detroit Speed on this, we're going to use the same bracket that we used to mount our headlight control module to mount our windshield wiper control module. So we're going to go ahead and take that back off. And that bracket's held on by the hood release bracket. We're going to drop that back down, bolt this to the back, and then put it all back in place. So with those plugged in, now we're going to go ahead and remount this. So with that done, our kit installation is basically complete. We just need to go ahead, test these out, and then tuck all the wiring up into place so it doesn't get caught on your feet. Now, Detroit Speed also includes a wire pre-installed for their windshield wiper fluid kit. We've opted not to install it at this time, but we're gonna go ahead and tuck this up under the dash just in case we wanna put it on the car in a later date. So with that, let's get this wiring tidied up, let's get the stuff under the hood tidied up, our glove box back in, and then test these out. And just like that, we're all finished up. We have our Detroit Speed headlight motors installed along with our windshield wiper motor. And not only will this thing be able to see at night, be able to keep the rain off the windshield too. So you don't have to worry about getting caught in the rain or the dark coming back from a show or a cool cruise. I can't wait to give this back to our buddy Al so we can get these all tested out. If you guys like what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe to the Summit Racing YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the crusty content we have or anything else. And punch that notification bell so you always know when we post a new video. So until next time, I'm Justin with Summit Racing, and thanks for watching.